For centuries, European literature relied on a very specific romantic formula: courtly love. A brave knight or a devoted poet pledges his eternal loyalty to a perfect, completely untouchable woman, usually from afar. Sir Philip Sidney's 16th century sonnet sequence, Astrophil and Stella, begins exactly like this. The narrator, Astrophil, is hopelessly devoted to Stella, a woman he describes as virtuous, intelligent, and his ideal partner. This diagram illustrates the narrative space we are given as readers. Because Astrophil is the author of the sonnets, his inner thoughts and desires eclipse nearly everything else. We only get the thinnest sliver of Stella's actual thoughts, mostly filtered through her physical reactions. Look at how this dynamic plays out on a timeline of the first 30 sonnets. Stella's affection level remains entirely flat. She does not return his love, but she tries to be kind, never explicitly rejecting his advances. Sidney based this arrangement on his own real-world infatuation with a young, unmarried woman named Penelope Devereux. Being locked entirely inside the narrator's head creates a psychological echo chamber. When a poet only talks to himself about how perfect his love is, an escalating obsession is easily disguised as a noble, mutual romance. That literary fantasy crashes into reality somewhere between the 31st and 33rd sonnet. Penelope Devereux gets married. She becomes Lady Rich. In the poetry, Astrophil discovers Stella is now another man's wife. Rather than respecting the marriage and walking away, he doubles down on his pursuit. Knowing that Lord Rich has constant physical access to Stella without appreciating her intellect or virtue drives Astrophil into a deep, consuming jealousy. Stella is visibly miserable in her new life. To Astrophil, her personal sacrifice makes her even more alluring, twisting his affection into a savior complex. The marriage acts as a strict barrier. Instead of ending the pursuit, it weaponizes his feelings, turning a harmless literary crush into an intense, real-world obsession. Around Sonnet 60, the dynamic between the two radically shifts. Astrophil achieves what looks like a total victory. Stella finally confesses that she returns his love. This timeline branch shows the catch to her confession. Stella explicitly locks off any physical relationship, demanding they remain platonic. Once set, Astrophil's rational logic attempts to hold steady, while his physical desire begins violently spiking against the boundary. His rational mind understands that suppressing his physical needs is the only way to keep Stella in his life. But his lust rapidly begins to overwrite his logic. Stella's platonic boundary is a desperate, fragile compromise to keep a man she cares about nearby without ruining her life. Instead, it creates an unsustainable pressure cooker. Over the next few poems, Astrophil completely fails to manage that pressure. The physical desire he promised to suppress consumes whatever rationality he had left. The dangerous climax of this intense tension arrives in Song 2, when Astrophil finds Stella entirely vulnerable, asleep. He steals a kiss from her. It is a direct, deliberate violation of the single boundary she set. The text itself does not frame this as a romantic victory. The wording of the poem describes the act as a profound betrayal, likening the stolen kiss to a sort of rape. This single action shatters the illusion of Astrophil as the noble, courtly lover. His affection is exposed as a destructive lust that prioritizes his own physical satisfaction over Stella's safety and trust. Stella wakes up and her reaction is immediate and furious. Despite her feelings for him, she takes her first major act of self-preservation. She insists they must never see each other again. The two lovers are physically separated, and the poetry details an agonizing, dramatic spiral. This graph tracks the relationship's viability, and you can see it abruptly plunge to zero right after the stolen kiss. By Sonnet 93, the reality of his actions finally catches up to Astrophil, swallowing him in an expanding zone of guilt for harming her. Realizing the damage done does not equal making amends. Astrophil's guilt isolates him, but it fails to cure the core obsession that ruined the relationship in the first place. The final sequence plays out around Sonnet 101, when the stakes abruptly change as Stella falls heavily ill. Astrophil responds with a desperate, tone-deaf gesture. He attempts one last time to win her back by serenading her under her window in Song 11. The serenade is the ultimate proof of his failure. Even now, he is ignoring the very boundaries she begged him to respect, demanding her attention when she asked for distance. Appalled by his relentless persistence, Stella dismisses him forever. She chooses her reputation and her vows over his toxic passion. Astrophil ends the sequence entirely isolated. He is empty, alone, and left with nothing but his poetry. Astrophil and Stella serves as a poignant psychological autopsy. It proves that refusing to respect a partner's boundaries in the pursuit of physical passion leaves the pursuer with nothing but the memory of what they destroyed.